Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Watcher. It's a Shudder exclusive, and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, August 26th. Yes, this is not one of the Thursday releases, it's a Friday. So, this is a no spoiler review because this is a newer film and because it's not on Shudder yet when I'm putting this review up. So, no spoilers. You can easily watch this not having seen it. But if you have already seen it, I would love to hear your opinions on it. Go ahead and put it in the comments, which makes me feel like this is a perfect time to say also subscribe to my channel, please. Really does help me out, keeps me motivated to keep doing these reviews because I'm just throwing this out there. It does take a lot of time. So the best way for you to repay me, which is quick, painless, and costs you nothing, is subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell button, then you'll know every time I'm putting up a new video. And if you watch it early on, that could help me get some traction. So appreciate it. But anyway. Watcher, directed by Chloe Okuno, who did the Storm Drain segment of VHS 94, which I know a lot of people love that segment of VHS 94. Well, a lot of people just love VHS 94. Thought it was pretty good, even though I'm not a big found footage person, but yeah, the Storm Drain one, well done. So, doing a great job again, in my opinion. It looked really good. I think Okuno has shown herself to be a very good director. A lot of really cool kind of like smooth camera movements with this one. A lot of interesting, well, there were a few like really interesting inspired camera angles that made me take note. There are films that you watch where you're just kind of like, yep, seems like, directing's done well. There are no problems. It's like, normal directing. But there were a few shots in this one that just make you kind of step back a little bit and take note and kind of be like, oh, that was particularly creative. So I like that. Written by Okuno as well as Zack Ford, who also wrote scripts for Scar and Girls Night Out. Have not seen it. Once again, Shudder exclusive coming Friday, August 26th. Quick synopsis, because I don't want to give too much away. It's about a woman and her... I can't tell. There's no label put on it. I don't know if it's boyfriend or husband. Partner, a woman and her partner who are in Romania. They basically moved from the United States because he got a promotion within his company and they needed him to move out there because his mother was Romanian. So anyway, she moves out with him not knowing any Romanian. So there's a big aspect of it that is kind of like a feeling of alienation, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But while she's there, she's feeling very out of place, and she feels like there is someone within the neighborhood who is watching her, hence the title Watcher. And she's trying to figure out, is this a problem? Is this not a problem? Am I just thinking things up? And a lot of other people kind of have that idea about it. Yeah. And as a viewer, they do kind of oscillate between, you kind of thinking, oh, there's definitely something going on, or really maybe there is nothing going on. So it does do a pretty good job of kind of keeping you guessing to a degree of, is she just being too paranoid because she's kind of out of place in a place she's not familiar with? So she's like on hyper alert, or is there actually someone watching her and potentially, intending harm? So not going to tell you how that ends up, obviously, because no spoiler review, but I think it just speaks volumes that you're kind of on the edge of your seat the whole time and trying to figure out which way this is going to go. Because honestly, going into the end of the film, I had a feeling that it would go one way, but I could also easily see that it could go a different way. So that's good. That's good to kind of have that questioning in the mind of the viewer kind of throughout the film. Makes it more interesting. There's dialogue in Romanian within the film, but there's no subtitles for it, which some people may be like, well, that's annoying. But I think this was actually a very intentional choice, which I actually really like, because it bonds you more to the main character who's feeling alienated, feeling out of her element. She does not understand Romanian, so you are experiencing exactly what she is experiencing. You're confused. You feel a little bit lost with what's going on. Not too much, though, that it ruins the film or anything. But I like that move. I like that move a lot because it really just puts you in the headspace of this main character a lot better. So love that. It's not going to be something everyone loves, but I did. You get a good feel of being on an outsider as the film establishes the story in the beginning. The other thing is, especially someone like myself, just being an American from the United States, I'm seeing a cityscape I'm not familiar with. This looks, I guess, like Romania. I'm not super familiar with what Romania looks like, but there is this interesting kind of exploratory aspect to it where the main character's going out, and you also are kind of experiencing for the first time this cityscape that, if you're an American like myself, doesn't look like where you live. It makes you as the viewer also feel out of place. It's a very exploratory thing, and you really don't know what it's going to look like or what you're going to find. You can't just make an assumption that, oh, we're going to see McDonald's or we're going to see a bunch of Starbucks. Like, when you're in an American town, like, you have an idea of probably what the layout's going to be like, what things are going to look like, what types of shops are going to be there. With this, it's just like, I don't know. So it further helps get you, in the mindset of that main character. The film does establish a pretty good creepy vibe early on, and I think part of that is the actual filmmaking, like directing, cinematography. Part of it is the fact that the colors are a little bit leached from the palette of the film, and also the music. The score has got like a nice kind of like ominous, creepy vibe to it, and it's not too much. It's a relatively restrained score, which I'm a huge fan of. I love that we've kind of moved that way, because those just like over the top scores just kind of get to me. I don't want to be screamed at by a filmmaker. I know I, talk about this probably too much in my reviews, but yeah. Information on what's going on comes in bits and pieces as the main character gets a bit late, gets the information a bit late from the people around her. And this also further bonds you to that main character because you're still in her headspace. You're not getting the information at the same time as other characters are. So characters around the main character are getting, kind of important information, and she's getting it way later. And you also, as a viewer, are getting it way later, and that makes you kind of feel a little bit frustrated with these people to be like, isn't this something we should have known at this point? Like, why are you keeping this information from us? So yeah, I like that. The film does take its time, but it helps reflect the boredom and the alienation of the main character. So usually I'm not a fan of these slower paced films, and some people may watch this and be like, oh, the pacing's not that great, but I think the pacing's fine. But yes, I do see where people might kind of be like, oh, it does kind of get a little bit too slow, but I think it's important because this individual isn't like working, she's just kind of staying home during the day. It helps you feel like this is the boredom. Like you're not living someplace where, you can just watch TV because you don't know the language. You can't just like go places because you don't really know people. You don't know the layout of the place. Like there's a lot of kind of boredom that's involved with that. So I think a slower pacing actually fits with the film. So I'm fine with that. That said, it's not a super long film. I think it's like an hour and 36 minutes with credits. So yeah, it doesn't take up too much time. Like I said, some of the more interesting portions are exploring the cityscape here. I think that's cool. There is a certain amount of skepticism you end up feeling as a viewer. This goes back to kind of what I was saying in the beginning, kind of leaving things a little bit up in the air as in reference to, is there actually a danger here or is there not? Is this just kind of all in the main character's perception of what's potentially going on? So you really do kind of feel up in the air about things, which is good. Whenever you can have a non-reliable narrator for the story, it really does help to kind of keep the surprise element going until the very end of the film when you want to, do your big reveal. It is slow, but it does feel like it's working towards something kind of big. Now, that said, it felt to me like they were working towards something really big. There is a satisfying ending to it, but I wouldn't say that it's like a big ending. It's a good ending, but it's not like as big of an ending as I was kind of feeling like they were going to end up going with, which is, that's fine. Like it's what the filmmaker chose to do. That's all right. It's just, as a viewer, like you end up creating certain expectations while you're watching film, or even before you go into a film, and that can kind of affect the way you experience a film. So got to be careful about that. Lots of things that end up being introduced in this film feel like they could lead to something or just be red herrings. And I like that again. It kind of reminds me of giallo films. Like, I wouldn't say there are like as many red herrings as a giallo film in this, but there's a decent amount of things that are in there that you don't know. Like maybe this is a part of the puzzle of what's really going on, or maybe everything you're experiencing is literally just a red herring because there isn't really anything crazy going on. So you feel like that the whole time. So you're like really paying attention to these things, but then also feeling like, but it might not really matter in the end. So I like that. It's good. It's like putting a puzzle together. Good ending, but there is an aspect of unbelievability with the condition of someone and what they end up doing while in said condition. I can't go any further. I'm trying to be kind of vague with it because obviously I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just one of those things where in film they create a world that feels like it's real life, but then there are some things that happen that feel like that is not something that would happen in real life. So it does kind of pull you out of the film a little bit because you're like, that's not believable. So there's a little bit of something like that at the end. I'm bringing it up because this is what I do in my reviews, but it's not something that bothered me too much. But it is something that bothered me a little bit. In the end, this film feels like a commentary on being a woman living in a man's world and how hard it is to have people see from your perspective or even just listen to you in the first place. There have been a bunch of films that have come out over the years, very recent years, that have kind of hit on this note where it's from the perspective of a woman saying, look, this is kind of what it feels like to be a woman in a man's world. This is kind of what it feels like to be brushed off, to be not understood, to be not listened to the world is built from a male perspective in essence, and you see that in a lot of film and movies and everything like that. So when you're getting a film like this, it does, well, doesn't necessarily, but for certain people, it can make you kind of step back and consider, oh, maybe this is kind of what it feels like headspace wise to be in this situation and be a woman in a man's world. It feels like it's not necessarily a world built for you. So yeah, I think that's well established, and I think it's well executed within the film. So pretty good. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it a very solid 3.5-star rating. This is a good film. I would definitely recommend this film, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. So enjoy. And if you have enjoyed it already, like I said, comment. Let's talk about it. You can do spoilers in the comments. That's fine. So if you don't want spoilers, don't read the comments. You can leave one though. Just don't read the comments if you don't want spoilers. But I recommend watch the film, come back, comment, and we'll talk about it. But thank you so much, everyone, for taking your time to check this out. Again, subscribe to my channel for me, hit the notification bell button, all that jazz. But until next time, keep it brutal.